Everything is energy. What you perceive with your five senses to be the solid world around you is actually nothing of the sort. It is simply differing frequencies of energy acting in harmony to form what our senses perceive as matter. The reality that we are experiencing every day and all matter within it is in fact a symphony. A symphony consisting in its entirety of light and of sound. Ultimately, there is nothing else. There is only these differing vibrational frequencies of light and sound. This was expressed more than eloquently in the book The Four Agreements, in which the author Don Miguel Ruiz wrote that it is not the stars that create the light, but rather the light that creates the stars. The universe in which we live is exceedingly vast. It is fractal in nature, and this is more significant than you may at first comprehend, because recent advances in science indicate to us that this entire universe actually exists within the center of a black hole. And reality exists as above and so below. Have you ever truly looked within yourself? Does it seem significant to you that each of the 100 trillion atoms that make up each of the 53 trillion cells that in turn make up the human body is itself structured as a solar system? Each one of these atoms consists of 99.999% empty space, and yet it is these empty atoms that make up the seemingly solid world both around you and within you. Each world a realm of infinite possibility and of infinite energy, and yet one is contained within the finite space of your body, as above and so below. At the heart of each atom, as at the heart of each cell, and at the heart of every living being, lies an energy so powerful and so mysterious that it had until recently remained elusive and undefined to modern science. What is contained within this energy is consciousness, and the form that it takes is that of a black hole. This is extremely significant, because what this understanding suggests to us is that within each atom of your body there also lies yet another seemingly endless universe, and that the universe in which we live also exists within the nucleus of an atom. To truly grasp the concept and the significance of this, one needs only to realize that all that actually exists within creation is consciousness. Consciousness composed of nothing more than pure energy. Everything is energy, and everything is consciousness, because the energy itself is conscious. Each soul in projection within this reality is simply one frequency of this consciousness, and one expression of that frequency, and as above, so below. And so it continues to infinity. This information is not new. It has been known for eons, and it has been used throughout man's history. It was known and used over 10,000 years ago during the construction of the pyramids and of other ancient megalithic monuments, and it was known long before that time as well. Since that time, humanity has suffered a great forgetting, but even though this forgetting occurred, it has now become inarguably clear that mankind has been around for an extremely long time, long before any conceivable date for the planting of the first crop or the beginning of our current civilization. In fact, it is beyond any doubt whatsoever that in truth, humanity is tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands, and possibly even millions of years old. To many people, it may be somewhat staggering to come to the realization that man lived perfectly well on this planet for such long periods of years prior to what is taught and what is believed by our culture. Yet evidence clearly suggests that such is indeed the case. Such evidence indicates to us that the real truth is that the entire course of human history is unthinkably different from what we find suggested to us and often presented to us as fact in our modern libraries and our history books. And it is largely due to the suppression of truth regarding such matters that we find ourselves today living within societies that are fractured and in all ways dysfunctional. Societies that are in fact wholly illusionary. With any real investigation, we can find in truth everything taught to us by our education and our religious systems is wrong. And this is most especially true when taken in regard to our significance as individuals. Through such institutions, we are taught that we are just little people. We are insignificant in the higher scheme of things. But it's a lie. Each of us quite literally holds the key to the universe in our hands if we would just look and see it. For the reality is that we are not merely spectators here, and in truth, mankind and the overall experience that we are involved in right now on this earth is the main event. Humankind is the vector, the link between the above and the below. And we are, each of us here, participating in creation at this particular time for a specific purpose. And that purpose is to create this reality, to perceive the experience, and to gather knowledge. The tools that we have been provided with in order to achieve this task are our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions, while the most powerful tool of all is our free will. In our perception and interaction with this reality, this free will is the key we have been searching for. It is truly the most important thing of all. It is this free will that provides us with our freedom of choice. And it is this freedom of choice that controls the state of our consciousness. For whether we realize it or not, it is this freedom of choice that decides which energy we as individuals choose to center ourselves in. And it is from this chosen center that each of us perceives our individual reality. It is our individual perceptions that then, in turn, creates that which is perceived by the collective consciousness, of which we are all part. It is the choice and decisions of the collective consciousness, the free will of the people, that quite literally creates the world that we experience every day. There are now many fields of science that are also realizing a need to embrace this perspective. Indeed, many scientists are at last realizing that it is only by embracing a spiritual understanding and then applying it to science that any true answers will ever be found. For example, mainstream science is now openly declaring that consciousness is non-local to the body. And this is also extremely significant. For what this means is that what you see when you look in the mirror is not actually you. It is merely the vessel that you use as a tool to create and experience your chosen reality. For the real truth is that the world in which you live is purely illusionary. It is nothing more than a construction of your beliefs, your perceptions, and your intentions. A creation of your understanding and your conditioning. And it is these things that confuse you into believing that what you perceive in the mirror is who and what you are, and that controls what you think you can and cannot achieve. They also convince you that what you perceive and experience as the solid world around you is real, even though it is purely an illusion you are experiencing. What is required to gain an understanding of your true nature and of the power you hold on a personal level is to gain an understanding of energy and to be aware of what type of energy you are centered in. Everything that exists is simply energy in differing forms of perception. Everything is energy. It is this energy that makes up this reality. What you perceive around you as vacuum and empty space is the true stuff of the universe. For what you perceive as a solid world around you, the things you perceive as matter are in reality simply divisions in space. It is the space that is truly real. What arranges the substance of this space into discernible matter is consciousness. The conscious energy field around you has been called many things by many people. It has been called the matrix, the mind of God, nature, or even simply the field. It is the intangible stuff that connects all things and binds them into a single reality. It is this field that each of you is connected to and with which you interact to create and shape reality every moment of every day. This is achieved via your perceptions and through the interactions of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. For these things that occur within you are quite literally a language. And this language, though not spoken, is very real. The importance of understanding this language has been known since ancient times. Many societies of the past based their entire civilizations upon gaining this understanding. And it was solely for this purpose that many of their now ancient structures were created. Many of these ancient remains were not merely temples, they were places of learning. The key to comprehending such places is to understand how energy works and how different energies are affected by different types of geometry. A structure would be built according to certain sacred geometric principles in order to create certain frequencies within the individual. The building itself would then generate a specific type of energy field that would be perceived by anyone entering inside as a tangible feeling or emotion within them. The walls and ceilings of these places would then be adorned with information in the form of hieroglyphs, texts, and zodiac references that to the layman would simply seem like interesting stories, but to the initiated would explain the energy and the feeling generated by the structure, what this type of energy truly was, and how it could be understood, harnessed, and spoken. Each of these structures served in essence as a book, enabling the student to understand and speak the language of feeling and emotion. This language is still used and it is still spoken by people in the modern world today. In fact, it is spoken every single moment of every single day by every human being on earth, though most are completely unaware that they are doing so. It is the language of electromagnetism, spoken to the surrounding energy field via the liquid crystal oscillator that powers your body. It is the language of the heart. There are, however, certain forces in this world that have worked to ensure such information is kept out of public knowledge. And this is most especially true in our modern societies, where the powers that be have painstakingly attempted to keep such knowledge well hidden. These forces have succeeded in trapping the collective consciousness of humankind within one small layer of a fractal and endless reality. And this has been achieved via the manipulation of mind. Methods have been employed that have succeeded in completely detaching human beings from their sense of power and reality. And this is a process that has been going on for a very long time. It has been done through the suppression of true knowledge and by using such machinations as religion, patriotism, race, wealth, class, and every other form of separatism available in order to create a divided mindset among the people. Anything to make humankind feel separated from each other and from the planet they live upon. And the main tool that has been used to achieve these ends is fear. The situation we are facing in the world today has been created by design. and it has become what we perceive as reality simply because most people are unaware of the true nature of reality or have any real understanding of how this world is actually run. It continues to this day due to the fact that the only information that most people receive comes from newspapers or the television. And it needs to be made clear to everyone that the mainstream media will never inform people as to the real facts surrounding anything. It is simply not what the media is designed to do. The mainstream media has little or nothing to do with keeping people informed, and everything to do with controlling the flow of information and shaping the thoughts, beliefs and opinions of the populace. These institutions simply present theory and propaganda as fact and promote ridicule toward anyone questioning them. It is a very cleverly constructed system, but once you have figured out how to see through the haze of propaganda, the real truths become painfully obvious. But still, many people fail to see through the haze, and so now we find the entire human race facing a most precarious situation. The first step in remedying this situation, the first step in regaining an understanding of reality and of our true connection to it, is to free ourselves from the control mechanisms of the physical world. And the way to achieve this is for each individual on this planet to stand up and to reclaim their birthright. Do you think everything happening in the world today is normal? Do you consider the path humanity is currently treading to simply be a natural progression? Do you think the war on terror is real? Open your mind and open your eyes. Notice the continuing illegal invasions. Notice the continual removal of your rights. Notice the anti-humanitarian legislation being enacted by our governments, and understand that this situation simply cannot continue without the acceptance and passive compliance of the people. So stop complying with it, because the prison door is now swinging shut. The governments and police that we have employed to protect us have visibly stepped from their path. No longer do police act in the capacity of peace officers. Now they are simply hired thugs of governments that have long since ceased to act in the best interests of the people. And the fact that in modern times many police officers and also many soldiers are actually brainwashed enough to unquestioningly enforce any piece of corrupt legislation handed to them rather than arresting the criminals who gave the orders indicates a grave danger to the people. This is why it is so important for public awareness of the real issues facing humanity, because with public awareness we can quite easily turn things around and create a peaceful and empowered society. It is also why it is so important for police to wake up to themselves and start actually doing their job of protecting the citizens rather than defending elitist corruption and undermining the security of their nation, which is what they are currently doing. Unfortunately for the people, most modern police officers have forgotten that they are people too, and that the perceived power of these individuals lies in the uniform, not in the pawn that is wearing it. These police officers are removing their own rights as well, and ultimately it comes down to the people to stop this occurring. One really cannot blame the puppet leaders, nor even the criminal banksters that control them, because ultimately it's all happening simply because the people are going along with it. It's all about free will. It's all about whether you choose to allow this situation to continue, or whether you choose to shake off the TV-induced apathy, spread the word, and stand up and say no. What we are experiencing in this reality is freedom of choice. So step away from the fear, because it is truly time for people to understand the real power that they have. Turn your back on the TV, shake off the fear mentality, and stand up and say no. Come to the realization that we are not numbers, we are not consumers, we are sovereign people, and the governments are our elected servants. Understand where their position in the hierarchy actually lies. The government serves the people do not serve the government. And with public awareness of the true dilemma facing humanity, we can quite peacefully and very easily rectify things. One may pause to wonder how we ever let it get this far. How do we ever let the world fall into the situation it is now in? The entire system is completely corrupt. It is corrupt in every single way. Wars are created by design. Whole nations are decimated for the sake of corporate interests. Our food is poisoned with toxins. Our water supply is filled with toxic waste under the pretext of it keeping our teeth healthy. Whole countries are brought to their knees for the sake of profit, while most people fail to even admit that there's a problem. People spend their lives in the collecting of meaningless trinkets or in self-improvement, while ignoring everything that goes on around them, and believing the world is the way it's portrayed on the television, the way it looks in magazines. Many focus on the divisions among people and what they perceive to be different about others from themselves, rather than on the similarities. The essence in each of us that remains at the core, the essence that connects us to each other, the essence that makes us all the same. And people wait to ascend to a higher consciousness, or to be delivered into salvation by a Saviour, without ever having to take responsibility for themselves. And they still fail to see that there's a problem. People scoff at the idea that fluoride is a neurotoxin, and yet the world is being strip-mined and depopulated around them. Government corruption is rife, the whole system is rotten to the core, and still no one sees that there's a problem. And now, with the introduction of genetically modified food and seed patenting, we are seeing a situation arise which has the potential to destroy the entire food chain on this planet. And all of this is occurring simply because we the people are allowing it to happen. One may pause to ask, exactly in whose interests is it to destroy the entire food chain? Why is our earth being strip-mined around us? And why is such a massive amount of depopulation occurring? One may even pause to question, who is really in charge here?
There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak.
For the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control.